crash and burn.
Hey everybody, so tonight I'm going to be discussing the 2009 film, The Collector. Now it's funny, when I first saw this movie, I got Saw vibes from it. And it wasn't until I'd seen it a handful of times that I'd come across the information that this was actually originally shopped around as an origin story for Jigsaw. So that's why the Saw vibes are so apparent here. So what it tells a story of is a dude named Arkin. His wife is in deep with some loan sharks, so he decides to break into this house that he's a handyman, and he is also an ex-con, and he's working at this one family. They're called the Chase family, and the dad, Michael, he's some diamond broker or some shit, so they live in this massive house, and they have a ton of cash, and apparently there's some priceless ruby or something that's in this house, and if he can get his hands on that, he can pay off his wife's debt with the loan shark, and they're not going to do anything to her or his daughter. So he goes in thinking everything's cool, but the second he goes back, he finds this really dangerous dog chained up outside on these series of elaborate poles everywhere. And he doesn't seem put off by that, even though the Chase family is said to be away for the weekend. And I don't know why anybody would set up a dog as a defense mechanism if they don't have anybody around who are going to feed the dog and going to let the dog go to the bathroom or whatever. Take the dog for a walk, maybe. So the fact that he shows up to rob the place and there's this really vicious dog chained up outside should have been red flag one. And then he gets inside and he very quickly discovers that he's not alone, and the family is being hunted and tortured and brutalized and collected by the Collector, who of course remains unnamed for the entire film. But nevertheless, he has Saw trapped this house, except these traps are less elaborate than Saw. These traps are a little more realistic. There's things like bear traps all over the floor, razor-bladed boards that are boarding up windows, guillotined windows with sharpened pieces of metal that will drop down when somebody attempts to flee. The Chase's daughter, whose name I can't remember, she gets it really bad. She ends up getting sprung into the projector screen in the living room, but behind it are a bunch of spikes that impale her on them. That was the other thing I loved about this movie, is the end credits. It says the actor's name, and then it shows what they look like before and after. It says the actor's name, and it shows the character early on, then it cuts to their death scene and how they died, or if they didn't die, how they were tortured. I thought that was really fun too. While I'm on the topic of the credits, there's a post-credit scene where the Collector has Arkin in a box, and he's watching a bunch of old film slides and shit. And you hear Arkin screaming how he's going to kill him inside of the box, and the Collector kicks the box, and the scene cuts. So I thought that was really fun too. Oh yeah, that's right. The other thing that was fun about the credits, they of course have a thank you list, and they also have a special no thank you list to the guy that burned down somebody's bar and to some guy that stole somebody's watch. So there's a special no thank you list as well. I thought that was really clever. But I think my favorite thing about this movie was just how you think you've seen it all before, and in a lot of ways you have, but the violence in this movie was absolutely top shelf. The violence and the traps were so much fun, but they weren't stealing from the Saw franchise in any way. These traps are a little more realistic, I suppose. But then at the same time, that does sort of bring up my only criticism about this movie, is how does the Collector, who was one of the guys working on the property earlier, how is he able to trap this house that crazily in the span of a few hours? Because Arkin goes home before sunset, and he comes back around midnight, and this place is trapped to the max. This place is one scary ass puzzled out trap house where you're going to get limbs chopped off, you're going to lose, you're going to get sliced up, you're going to get diced, you're going to get this, and you're going to get that. I don't know how he was able to achieve that so quickly. The soundtrack was amazing. Commie Christ is on here, Depeche Mode's on here, Bauhaus's Bela Lugosi's Dead is on here. That's amazing. So the soundtrack kicked ass as well. I love that there was a post-credits scene. Oh Jesus, the wind is starting to pick up, so I should probably cut this short because I think the rain is going to kick in at any point. So yeah, what else did I want to say about this? Yes, this movie is violent as hell. The soundtrack was amazing. The daughter ends up in the projector. That is so rad. And I loved how Arkin ends up kidnapped. And there is a sequel called The Collected? Or The Collection, I think is the sequel. And then there's supposed to be a third one called The Collected, with the number 3 worked into the title somehow. But there's a bunch of props were stolen, and they're not really sure if that movie will ever be made. And I'm not sure if I've seen the sequel or not, actually. But I know this movie kicks ass, so I should probably check the sequel out again, because it's been a while if I have seen it. It's been long enough while that I don't remember seeing it. But yeah, so I am going to cut this one short. I probably should have picked a better night to do this. But this movie is absolutely amazing. It's ridiculously violent. The traps are clever. The cast is great. The music is amazing. And there's a post-credits scene. And there's a special no thank you list in the credits. It's awesome. I'm getting out of here. So thank you so much for hanging out with me while I discuss the 2009 film, The Collector. Like always, if you like this review or you like this movie, don't forget to go out and do something nice for somebody. But please, most importantly, never forget that the world is a hell of a lot more fun because you are in it. And no matter what you're going through, don't let go. Don't give up, because it's going to get better and you're going to kick ass all over again, and you're going to feel like the old you at some point. Just don't stop trying. Find a reason to hold on. You're amazing. I'm getting out of here. Have a good night.